I'm Owen Hughes. It's time for a road trip. Join me as we tour the grand cities of Central Europe. Our tour begins in Budapest, on to Vienna, then to Prague in the Czech Republic, and ends in Berlin. Our first stop, Budapest, Hungary, a tale of several cities separated by the Danube River.
The unification of the three former cities we had here before happened in 1873. Pest, this is where we are now, just across the river behind me, Buda. And there was one more, a smaller place called Old Buda. That's the northern part of the city. And these three cities were united.
Hungary's capital, Budapest, is a city of nearly 1.8 million people, with a variety of stunning architecture and a relaxed metropolitan feel. The city's appeal has resulted in over 7 million visitors per year. Our first stop, Heroes Square, commemorating the leaders of the 7 Hungarian tribes who founded the country. The tall centered column is crowned by the Archangel Gabriel. Statues of Hungarian kings and heroes form a semicircle behind the column, including King Saint Stephen, founder of the Hungarian state and Hungary's first king. A time crunch did not permit experiencing the legendary Budapest baths, supplied by underground thermal springs, which release mineral-rich water daily, fill these ever-popular baths. Today, a misty morning greets our tour. We are in Buda as we visit Castle Hill. We reach the centuries-old Matthias Church with its neo-Gothic style and unique tile roof. This Catholic church is situated in Holy Trinity Square. We're treated by the church organist who performs several classic concert pieces during our visit. We then stroll through Fisherman's Bastion, which surrounds the square and provides a spectacular panoramic view of the city. This evening, we enjoy a Danube River dinner cruise with a delicious buffet and your favorite beverage to get you started.
Beautiful. So it's really like being in a fairy tale. An aim and the goal of the local governments of Budapest to keep the original style, not to change a lot, not to build, skyscrapers in the city, just to keep the beautiful view from the river.
And a beautiful view it was. Our final day in Budapest brings us to the Parliament building. This stunning Gothic Revival architecture was initially constructed in 1885, but not completed till 1904. It is the third largest Parliament building in the world. With its regal statues, stained glass and fresco paintings, this historic landmark is a must-see in Budapest. We then head to St. Stephen's Basilica. The church, built in neoclassical style, was completed in 1905, 54 years after construction began. The church, one of the most prominent in Hungary, is named after Stephen, Hungary's first king. It's Stephen's alleged right hand that is preserved in the base of the basilica. It is said that up to 8,500 people can fit in this wondrous cathedral at the same time. The two large bell towers characterize the facade. The southern bell houses the largest bell in Hungary. Our final stop, the Great Market Hall, a gigantic three-floor farmers market. Built in 1897, everything from fresh goods, shopping, and sightseeing will be found here. 5 minutes from the city center, the market is popular with locals and tourists alike. Today we leave Hungary and travel through the Austrian countryside to Vienna, the city of music. Schubert, Beethoven, and Mozart all walked these streets and composed music here, along with hometown resident Johann Strauss.
Vienna is a museum town. It has more than 130 museums. Related to museums is the Klimt. Klimt paintings, they reach the highest prices nowadays in the whole world. You will not find Parisian cuisine, you will not find Roman cuisine, but there is a Viennese cuisine, and it is very good, and that is particularly good for the pastries. And when you come to Vienna, you absolutely must try the Sachertorte, which is the dark chocolate cake, which is apricot jam in the middle and iced with semi-sweet chocolate and some whipped cream and a cup of coffee. That is, without that you haven't been to Vienna.
From here, it's a delightful afternoon for shopping or taking a stroll in the park. Vienna has plenty of both. The Schönbrunn Palace is our first stop. Starting in the mid-1500s, this was the former summer residence of the Habsburg emperors. The palace has 1,441 rooms, of which 45 are open for public viewing today. A 6-year-old prodigy named Mozart once performed in the palace. Emperor Franz Joseph and the ever-popular Empress Maria Theresa, who had 16 children, were historic rulers here. The Baroque-style complex, with luxurious interiors and exquisite gardens, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. From Schönbrunn, we head to Vienna's most famous boulevard, the Ringstrasse. We enter the Volksgarten with its array of 3,000 roses. That's the Theseus Temple. Front and center, the Hofburg Palace. As Schönbrunn was the summer residence, Hofburg was the winter home of the Habsburg dynasty. Since 1946, the President of Austria resides and works here. A breezy stroll through the complex on a beautiful day is a great way to see and feel Vienna. With an evening walk through Old Town, you marvel at the Gothic churches and Baroque architecture, the sights and sounds, as well as the restaurants and cafes. And a tasty dessert is just right to cap off the evening. This morning, we venture across the border to Bratislava, the capital of Slovakia, formerly part of Czechoslovakia. The city sits off the Danube River and Castle Hill. A guided tour starts at Michael's Gate, one of the rare remaining gates from medieval times. A city museum is in the gate's tower. The splendidly restored Old Town includes picturesque streets with carefree cafes, humorous statues, and rich history. St. Martin's Cathedral is the city's largest and most decorated church. Grand coronations of Habsburg kings and a queen were celebrated here. The Art Nouveau Salvador Pharmacy, with history dating back to the 1700s, stands there. Scenic Old Town Hall and the main square are a must-see. Next to the Carlton Hotel, the Grand Slovak National Theater, constructed in 1886, stands there. It is said that in 1762, a young Mozart gave a concert in the street while staying here. A wistful tour through Old Town Bratislava is within an hour from Vienna, and a wonderful venture into a welcoming land. This evening, we celebrate with an Austrian country dinner.
Romantic.
A festive way to end our stay in Vienna. We continue the next morning to Prague in the Czech Republic. An overcast day doesn't hamper our tour. The city of 100 spires is welcoming nonetheless. The red roofs and an array of architectural styles gives the city a distinct feel.
Of all the cities in Europe, Prague has the way largest medieval old city center. And then what makes Prague so special is that it was never destroyed. All the other cities, sooner or later, they fell victim to a fire, or they were destroyed in a war, or they were just air raids in the Second World War, and Prague remained.
The city's old town is a mecca for residents and tourists alike. For a small fee, the town hall tower is open, giving a 360-degree viewing of the city. Connected below is the famous astronomical clock. Built in 1410, the clock includes the procession of the 12 apostles, the performances on the hour, and a crowd favorite. Town Square served as a flashpoint for European trade routes, with history dating back to the 10th century. Find a cozy restaurant and grab some goulash or schnitzel with a Czech beer. Per capita, the country is by far the world leader in beer consumption. Our walking tour this morning begins at the Wallenstein Palace and Gardens. Constructed in the early 1600s, the picturesque grounds are now used for concerts and theatrical plays. The Czech Senate building houses the new parliament. Installed in 1996, after the Cold War and separation of Slovakia and the Czech Republic. Walking the cobblestone streets, viewing the enchanting architecture, you find yourself immersed in a one-of-a-kind experience. We then stroll through the Jewish quarter, past the Old New Synagogue, completed in 1270, and is the oldest active synagogue in Europe. The Jewish cemetery, with over 12,000 grave sites, dates back to the first half of the 15th century. Of the 18 bridges in Prague, the Charles Bridge is the most recognized. Commissioned by Charles IV in the year 1357, the bridge took 45 years to build and crosses the Vltava River. It is adorned by 30 sculptures of saints, breathtaking city views, and is the oldest stone bridge in all of Europe. Since the 10th century, Prague Castle was not only the seat for kings and heads of state, but also the Prague bishop, the highest church representative. The vast castle complex includes Vladislav Hall, a Gothic architectural masterpiece. The hall was the site of coronations and tournaments with knights on horseback. The old royal palace, originally built in the 9th century, holds architectural and historical intrigue. St. Vitus Cathedral dates back to the year 925, but did not become a Gothic cathedral until Charles IV proclaimed construction to begin in 1344. Yet war and various renovations, which continue today, have seen a cathedral not solemnly consecrated until 1929. Golden Lane is also inside the castle walls, with its colorful dwellings, and once home to castle workers, including Josef Kozda, a film collector and historian, who during the Nazi regime concealed Czechoslovak films and defiantly preserved them from destruction. The castle complex today stands not only as the most important Czech monument, but also its most important cultural institution. This morning, we head to Germany. Covering such distances, safety and smooth travels are paramount, making the tour driver an unsung hero.
In Europe, I've been everywhere, so I cannot tell you when I never been in the Portuguese, so this is one country in Europe I never been there. The season is a whole year. Yeah. Of course, the normal season starts from April to October, something like that, yeah? And then we have winter tours, and we start winter tours. Also, we go ski resorts or something like that, so we have, the season for us is whole year.
Dresden is our first stop. The city has a population of 1.3 million people and is the capital of the state of Saxony. As part of East Germany in World War II, the city was decimated by British and American bombers. But since the 1990 reunification, the city is one of the most visited in Germany. Dresden's Royal Palace is one of the oldest buildings in the city. For over 400 years, this was the residence of the kings and state heads of Saxony. Today, the building is a museum complex and is known for its Baroque to Neo-Renaissance architecture. We tour the historical center, past the Semper Opera, Dresden's opera house, and home to opera and ballet. This popular street showcases the rulers through time in this region. The center of the Zwinger complex, an arts and cultural flashpoint for the city, was under construction and not available for our viewing. Martin Luther's statue sits in front of the famous Frauenkirche on the New Market. In 1517, Luther began the Protestant Reformation. Frauenkirche, or Church of Our Lady, is a Lutheran church, destroyed during World War II, yet reconstructed with completion in 2005. The New Market is a popular square in central Dresden. It was bombed by the Allies in 1945. But through time, the area was restored after the city's turbulent past. And Dresden is the birthplace of milk chocolate, invented in 1839 by entrepreneurs Jordan and Timaeus, who blended their chocolate with donkey milk. From here, we head to Berlin, the capital of Germany, and our final stop. an important entertainment and cultural city despite its severe past. Berlin is Europe's most populous city with nearly 4 million residents. It's also known as the heart of Europe due to its geographic location. Our hotel is abuzz as the EuroLeague Pro Basketball Championship is that weekend, and several teams are staying at the hotel. The next morning we stop at Museum Island. The Altus, or Old Museum, is our first stop. With neoclassical architecture, the building holds one of the world's most important classical art collections. Adjacent is the Berlin Cathedral, a German Protestant church and tomb of a royal family dynasty. Across the Lustgarten grounds is the Royal Palace. Fraught with war history, the palace was demolished in 2009 and reconstructed through 2023. It's now one of the world's largest. We then head to the Brandenburg Gate. This legendary site was a marker between East and West Berlin during the Cold War. For nearly 30 years, the Berlin Wall obstructed the gate during this period. The Brandenburg Gate symbolizes a cross between Germany's dark, lurid past and today's peaceful unity with Europe. Berlin was at the heart of the Cold War. Separation of East and West began in 1962. This line shows where the Berlin Wall existed. On the right, East Berlin, the oppressive Soviet section. On the left, the West, where citizens lived in freedom. Symbols of Soviet Cold War culture still abound in the city. The Trabant car, with 26 horsepower, maxed out at roughly 62 miles per hour. And the bland Soviet architecture are reminders of the past.
You can go to Moscow, you can go to Prague, you could go to East Germany, and you will find exactly the same houses. And they are reduplicated, thousands of them, because all they did was they had concrete panels, like this thick, and they would just attach them to each other. And then there was a house there made from these concrete panels with no insulation on it and never color. Because in the communist days, color was considered a waste of money.
Our final stop, Checkpoint Charlie, the well-known crossing between Cold War East and West Berlin. Dramatic escape attempts, prisoner swaps, and key confrontations between the Allies and Soviets happened here. Only Allied armed forces, dignitaries, and foreign tourists were allowed through Checkpoint Charlie. But in October 1990, the reunification of Germany began. The Berlin Wall came down and the borders reopened. 6 cities, 5 countries, 12 days. A journey through mystical and historical eras, enriching my zest for travel and making me wonder, where will the road take me next?